Hey everyone, it's Dr. G here. I hope you're doing well. In today's video, we are going to talk about public relations as it's related to your integrated marketing communications plan. So what is public relations? Basically, think about public relations as the key messages that your organization builds to find mutually beneficial relationships between your brand and the public and the people, your customers, your stakeholders, your investors, your employees have in the company. So why am I interested in explaining the importance of public relations in a marketing context? The reason is that, as you know, we need to have all of our communications integrated so that our key message, so that our brands really stand strong and that we don't have any sort of messaging that strays from that brand personality and the brand image that really truly aligns to the vision and the mission of our organization. So generally what happens is someone in a communications role or a public relations role will come up with that brand personality, the tone, the voice, the key messages that are really important to describing and communicating your brand out there in the world. So as a marketer, we generally work on many more broad types of strategies that are beyond communication. As you know, pricing, employee relations, supply chain, and promotion is just one part of that. But it's really important for us to make sure that whatever we are doing in terms of communicating our brand, both internally and externally, to our customers and our employees and our shareholders, that we stay true to those key messages. And again, the key messages are generally created by a public relations person or a communications person within the organization. And sometimes that particular group falls within the marketing department. So there's some key objectives or strategies that PR people work on to make this function work well, to be able to have that image, those key messages that are communicated out there to the public. First is shaping public perception. So what we want to do is we want to get ahead of any communication that goes out to our stakeholders or our customers or social media, to be able to shape that the attitudes and the opinions and the voice and the messaging for our firm. We plan. Planning is so very important so that we ensure that we have a good proactive and reactive strategy to be able to communicate those things that are great about our company and be prepared for the vulnerabilities that might happen. So planning is a key important function of public relations, just like we plan in marketing. Also, people within public relations are trained to speak to the media, to coach their executives, their management team, anybody who has a voice to the public, even customer care and social media employees. We coach and advise people on sort of the rights and the wrong ways of saying things to make sure that everyone, again, aligns very strongly to that brand. One of the main functions for PR is to protect the reputation. And we'll talk about that in a minute. Protecting reputation in a variety of different contexts is really critical for the organization and for the people who work for our companies. In some cases, in some companies, particularly publicly traded companies or even larger companies, sometimes the PR team will help influence public policy. They might work with lobbyists, but again, the message might be a little bit different from the messaging that would be about your brand and your customers. It would be more about how do we influence policy. And then finally, we as public relations people oversee the creation of content. That could be content in news releases, speeches or speaking engagements that our executives go out and talk to people. It could be content on social media or building what I call the guardrails of what you can and cannot say in the public on a social media platform. So those are the objectives that oftentimes public relations work on. And I want you to know that, as I mentioned earlier, PR and marketing work hand in hand. Sometimes they're the same people. So just know that this integration of communications, it may not be promotions, to sell something, but it's really important that those key messages are aligned. So what kind of tools are available? There's lots of different things in the PR toolkit. You can have news releases. Press releases are great when you have something newsworthy to express about your brand. So I'm talking about you're launching a new product, or maybe you've got a big charitable donation in your community, or someone in your company has done something fantastic. There are a time and a place to create a press release, but remember that press releases are really newsworthy. Featured stories. So we oftentimes in the public relations area, we create lists of editors, people in our trade. Like when I worked in the Internet of Things, we would have people who are influencers in the tech business, particularly in residential homes where I work. We would make sure that if there were something newsworthy, if they were working on a story, we would have those relationships with people so we could be there and top of mind to them, so they could come on and reach out to us and ask our opinion, or maybe even feature a story on one of our products or the people who work in our company. Social media, blogs, podcasts, all of those key messages have to align, and they're a really great tool for PR to use. Influencers and associations. So I talked a little bit about influencers in the tech biz. There's also influencers like trade associations, or even editors of magazines, or bloggers or influencers that you would see on Instagram or other social media platforms. Building these relationships and keeping them over the long haul is a great function for a public relations person. Sponsored events. Think of Red Bull and how much they do with sponsored events. They have an amazing public relations department that creates their own buzz. And not just in buzz like we would think viral videos or Instagram posts, but buzz in terms of getting people to come out and use their products and see their products and see people in action. So events are a really great component to a public relations plan. Experiential marketing, which is by far my favorite type of marketing. I love experiences. And that's going out into the community and making people see something new. Think of maybe a flash mob or something crazy like that, or getting people to wear all the same t-shirts on the same day that promote your company, or something much larger than that, that would really highlight or express the brand of your customers. And I am going to do a completely different video on experiential marketing and show you some great examples of what I've done in the past, as well as some other companies. And then finally, what's a really important part of public relations is knowing what people are saying about you. So we call this sentiment analysis. So we want to know, are people talking about our company? Are they saying good things or bad things? What happens when we have, what's going on with our products, ratings and reviews? So there's a whole number of tools that can be used, and I have these tools in Canvas for you to take a look at to really gauge where your company is at in terms of overall sentiment. So this is just a few of the marketing tools for public relations, and they're very much similar to some of the other tools that we use for in the marketing world. So that said, Here is a laundry list of different jobs you can have in public relations. And just remember, if you're working for a smaller company, PR, communications, and marketing often go hand in hand. So in a larger organization, like a Fortune 500 company or a Fortune 50, you are going to have very specific people who work on different elements of public relations. You're going to have people who work directly with the media. When I worked for a company, a financial services company, I managed a team of people who just focused on events. And we did anywhere from 80 to 110 events a year. So we had very focused plans on each of those events to make sure that our brand was being communicated and perceived in the marketplace in a very consistent way. So if you are interested in communications or PR, it's much larger than social media, or perhaps what you're thinking about. It's fairly comprehensive. And as you can see here, the laundry list of types of jobs is pretty significant. So there's two different ways of approaching public relations. Proactive, meaning you're going to get ahead of the communication. You want to communicate your brand to the right stakeholders in an offensive way. You're going to focus on the opportunities that your brands bring to the marketplace, and it's very planful. Whereas a reactive approach is defensive. Something happens. Maybe you have a product recall, or perhaps somebody says something disrespectful about your brand. Maybe it's an employee. Maybe it's something comes out of your CEO's mouth that isn't appropriate. When you're in a reactive mode, it is about solving problems, solving issues. But we also have to be very mindful of the vulnerabilities that our companies have so that we can also create a plan for when reactive or negative things do happen. So I want to just sort of flip now to tips for reputation management. So being proactive in public relations is really part of that overall integrated communications plans that you're working on for your clients as well as for any business. But I think we need to be mindful of those things that could happen when something goes wrong. So let's just say something always goes wrong. I will just be frank with you, whether it's a poor rating, or you have an employee that maybe is disgruntled, or something goes wrong with the product launch. You're always going to have issues. So it's really important to manage your reputation up front. So here's some tips for you. First and foremost, I want you to be transparent and honest. It is so critical just to be honest with, if something went wrong, something went wrong. Just come out and address it in a very quick, responsive way. And if you're dealing with somebody who has an issue with you, always be polite. Never be snarky. And I know you'll see some snarky stuff going on in social media, and there's a craft and an art to that of poking fun. However, you have to be really careful with that. So my advice to all of you is respond quickly to negative information and be very polite about it. You don't have to agree with the person, but be polite. Address the criticism. If you've done something wrong, you've done something wrong. Fess up, get over it, address it, and apologize. There's nothing more important than transparency, honesty, and addressing criticism. But on the other hand, if somebody is saying something inaccurate about you, or illegal, or illegitimate, it is 100% okay to say, hey, this is not correct. Here's the truth, and address it. Address it up front, address it in a polite way, but it is okay to react to that. Be prepared, as I managed before. Have a reputation management plan. If something goes wrong, have an escalation plan to, if a piece of negative information comes in, who is going to respond to that? Is it the CEO of your company? Is it someone in charge of public relations? Is it a supervisor of a call center or social media? Be prepared and have an escalation plan so that you know what to do when the time comes that you will have something negative. And as I mentioned, it always comes, so be prepared. I mentioned before research. It's really important, and you all know how important how much I believe in marketing research. Understanding attitudes and opinions and getting ahead of maybe a product launch and getting some reactions about your product prior to launching it, or floating some ideas by people is really important, but also your sentiment analysis. Know who's talking about you, what they're saying, and overall, what's the sentiment? Is it positive? Is it negative? And there's tools that can help you with this. And I have to come out here and tell you this about where we're at today. So we are in a social crisis. There is no doubt. People are living in fear. People are worried about their health, the safety of themselves and their loved ones. And one thing that I want to be very clear about is that when you're in a time of social crisis, take a breather. This is probably one of the times where you don't want to be proactive or too proactive with communications or promotions. Take time for people to settle, and that is really going to help manage your reputation. I lived through 9/11, and I worked in marketing at the time. I was a marketing consultant, and I also consulted with PR, and I did work for a firm. And there were so many companies that unfortunately spoke too soon, or gave their opinions, or decided that this was a great opportunity to start selling. I can't be more pointed in that in a time of crisis, let people rest a while. Give them some space before you start bombarding them with communications. Obviously, if it is a communication about your organization and they need to know something operationally, or you just want to send an I care message, that's 100% okay. But pull back on the promotions until we as a society have had time to settle and to be able to give people some room to move on before we start with that. So that's just my feedback for you. So let's look at some interesting PR blunders. So I've got a few for you here. You know I love blunders. First of all, we have LifeLock. And LifeLock's CEO, I don't even know if he's CEO because this happened a long time ago, probably before many of you ever watched TV. But LifeLock is an identity theft solution. You've probably heard about them because they spend a lot of money on promotion. And so one of their campaigns, when they first came out with their product, and I love this because I worked for a competitor with a different product that went head to head with LifeLock. And we were so surprised when they came out with this campaign that said, "My name is Todd Davis, I'm the CEO, and here's my social security number. Try me." Well, guess what? He got taken, his identity was violated at least 13 times during that campaign. And it was a PR nightmare because, hello, test your product. When it comes to identity theft, when it comes to hackers, there's some pretty smart people out there, as you know. We're not 100% bulletproof. And unfortunately, this seriously harmed the reputation of the company and the product. Here's our friend Kim Kardashian. Well, Kim just last year got the great idea of attempting to trademark the word kimono. Don't ask me why. I don't know if she wanted to have a baby called kimono or if she was just interested in that for a brand name. But One piece of advice I have for you, Kim Kardashian, is that kimono is a household name. You're not going to get it trademarked. So she made this big deal about attempting to get this trademark for this name, and it kind of backfired on her because guess what? Get an attorney. That's all I have to say on that one. Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo is an interesting case study in that they had some interesting incentives, I should say, or employee structure to help keep your job if you are a personal banker. And part of that was opening new accounts. And what happened with these stringent rules of having to open a number of new accounts every month, there were 1.5 million fraudulent accounts opened up by their employees. So this was a horrible scandal for Wells Fargo, and just a terrible PR blunder that I'm not quite certain they're going to be able to recover from anytime soon. This one here is the VW emission scandal. I used to teach this particular case in business ethics, and there is an interesting Netflix document on this if you're interested in this particular story. So VW had jerry-rigged their equipment, not equipment, their cars, to be able to trick the emission systems. And apparently, this happened, I don't have the number, thousands and thousands of times, and they were literally tricking the system, so they were in violation of the Clear Air Act. So that said, don't trick the system. The CEO lost his job. The VW had to spend thousands or millions of dollars reimbursing customers for their violation of this particular law. What do I have to say here about Gucci sweaters? This one needs no explanation. It is repulsive, and if I have to explain it to you, come see me. This is not at all, it's very, very offensive. This particular sweater that came out in the 2018-2019 Gucci rollout of women's sweaters. So that's a huge PR blunder. Again, if you need me to explain it to you, come see me. I will do that. And so soon, the college scandal, the college cheating scandal, where our friend Aunt Becky had used a gentleman to be able to get her daughter into USC through a college cheating scandal, and there were several other celebrities, as you know. So not only did this particular scandal hurt Aunt Becky, or Lori Loughlin, and her daughter, the school for which they go, but other schools that were also involved with the scandal. So Aunt Becky is facing 20 years in prison, and it is a horrible PR blunder for universities who participated in this mess. So that said, PR can be a blunder. There are millions of wonderful stories about good proactive PR that I could talk about, and I'll show you some of them when we get to experiential marketing. But just remember, it's really important for you to integrate your communications. Make sure that the left hand is talking to the right hand, that the product people are talking to the sales people, that the public relations people have an overall messaging strategy and key messages so that everyone in the organization understands how to communicate the value of your brand appropriately. So here is my favorite PR quote from Richard Branson. A good PR story is infinitely more effective than a front page ad. So there's many CEOs that will say great PR is much more advantageous to your brand than promoting, particularly a Super Bowl ad or something that's going to cost you hundreds of millions of dollars. So that is PR in a nutshell. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, email, text me, call me, or I have my Zoom up here now. I'm going to have virtual office hours every Tuesday and Thursday while we're online together. I will have my Zoom open and you can pop in. There's my URL and connect with me and talk to me anytime. And I do hope that I get to see some of you virtually because I miss you all already. And take care, be safe, be healthy, and make sure your communications are integrated. I'll talk to you soon.